Hey folks, did you ever want to learn how to make an eagle fly in Unity? I'm Paul from Curiosity Killed the King in Vancouver, and today we're joined by my colleague and lead coder, Gabriel in Mexico City. Today we're going to cover the coding for our Bewilderness AR app for the Meta Quest 2 and Quest Pro. In this video, Gabriel covers how he coded the different states that the bird flies in, including hunting or circling, how he got it to catch fish, how he got it to land on your arm, land in the nest, and finally, before it transitions to level 2 of the app, we add the eagle flapping wildly, creating a tornado, all in pass-through. As always, let us know what comments you have below. You'll notice a number of times in the video, Gabriel does ask for your input and for your advice on maybe how you would have done things differently or how we can improve our code. We did this AR app using a lean startup method, meaning we got it out the door as soon as we could. And you'll notice that there probably are areas for improvement. So thank you. Gabriel, I was just thinking back to like literally May 2022 when we started hanging out, and we didn't know much at the time, right? We knew we wanted an eagle. We knew we wanted pass through, and that was kind of it. And I remember when we first started working together, the first thing we started to do was to teach the eagle, the digital eagle, which was a different eagle at the time. It was a low res, low poly eagle. But yeah, I guess maybe just start by chatting about like, how did you see that problem at the time in your mind? Because you brought math to the table pretty quickly.
For the eagle movement here, I just wanted to hear this is
Yeah.
this
Yeah,
first bird we
there's
started
totally.
with.
You know, it'd almost be worth doing the app over again in all low poly, just because I still think that's really cool looking, you know?
Yeah, maybe transform it somehow. I don't know. Yeah, it is a whole different stuff. I mean, it's better for Oculus for the headset.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
but yeah, so we definitely upgraded our eagle. What's this guy's name?
Yeah, the guy in the asset store is Jim Studio, which is I think
Jim
it's
Studio.
GIM, and they do beautiful animals.
Yeah,
Um,
100% recommend.
where we got the low
Those
poly
guys.
one, I can't remember. We just went into Unity Asset Store and hit Eagle, but
Yeah. No, this asset is crazy. I don't know how he
so
does the animations, but I think they're sort of scanned or something because it has a
mm,
bunch of movement, which is really cool. Let's
mhm,
see what happens if I do this. Yeah, so you can kind of see the animation of the eagle.
yeah,
We were like automatically fell in love with it. It's like, I mean, this sort of skinning right here, how it like stretches in a nice way. It's not too, nothing's
it's
getting too
really
stretched.
lifelike. It's really lifelike.
Yeah, and then also for the peeps in the audience, this is a lower res eagle. There's actually a higher res one, but obviously because of the Oculus limitations, I took away the LOD, the first LOD.
Hmm.
So you can see here, this is an LOD group. So this is based on like the further you go from the eagle, there we go. It switches to a different model when it's far enough away. So you save
Hmm.
performance. And before there was like an extra high res one, and I kind of took that one out.
And did you figure that out before we uploaded it to App Lab, or was that an App Lab performance requirement?
Yeah, so when we were uploading to App Lab, they're really strict with the whole 60 frames per second minimum
Mm.
on the headset because people get dizzy and all that. And so, we were testing the app, and I thought there's a lot of things that you guys will see here, like mist, particle systems, high-res textures, and physics and stuff. And I was thinking, oh, I might have to lower the mist, the texture side, because also particles are kind of tough on the Oculus. But when I realized I put the headset, there's a nice little performance tool, and as soon as the eagle at some point lands in your on your arm, and as soon as that would happen, the frame rate would drop a whole lot. And so it's one of these cool kind of things where you're seeing the frame rate, and you kind of look away, and you're like, oh, it's going fast, and you look at the eagle, and then suddenly it drops, and I'm like looking at different parts of the eagle,
Hmm.
so almost this little like scanning tool.
Yeah.
And then I realized it's just this eagle. I mean, this is like even now there's like multiple meshes. There's like a little eyeball mesh,
Mm.
which is definitely not necessary for our purposes, but I couldn't take it out because it's just like
At some point, we would love to play with that, though. I mean, if we ever did have the eagle talking, or just, I mean, we could talk about that forever, but it'd be nice to really get into eye movement and stuff like that.
yeah. Also be able to control the mouth separate, like kind of like we were
Yeah,
saying.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's like the Eagle model. Definitely Gym Studio Has a lot of cool animals. 100% recommend them. Okay, so that is the eagle side, the art side of the model. We talk about a little bit about what we did here. Basically, what I did is this sort of very basic state machine, right? I mean, yeah. There's way more complex ways of making a state machine. But what I did is I have this switch statement, and then basically what happens is you tell the eagle, hey, switch states to a new bird state, right? So bird state is a class that, or an enum that I created, right? It has all these states. We switch to a new state, and then, a lot of things sort of get activated in that switch state part.
Yeah, maybe I should just quickly say that one thing we wanted
Mhm.
to do with the eagle behavior was we wanted the eagle to fly around and sort of explore or hunt. Um,
Mhm.
Eventually, it was going to land on our hand, which you accomplished. It was going to catch fish, so that was the need for states, right? Was just all of this different type of behavior that we wanted the eagle to do.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. Yeah, and it kept getting more and more complex. So it's one of these things where a lot of things start to interact.
Hmm.
So for example, at the beginning, eagles just hunting. I think that's what we call it.
Hmm.
So let's see, switch state.
Yeah, it's just sort of flying in the AR app that we created. It's just sort of flying around. It's flying over the head of the user. It is like it doesn't trust the player yet, and we haven't
Mhm.
started feeding it yet, so it was just sort of doing its own thing.
Mhm. Yep. So this stuff I will skip, this little piece of code. There's that we started getting a lot of different like edge cases, because there's a lot of things like, hey, the bird has a fish in its hand and you call it, it should first drop the fish off and then, come to you and all these kind of things. So there started to be all these edge cases, which I think this could be optimized in some really good ways. I think some really good Unity developers are gonna give me some good tips, hopefully. You're gonna see my
Well, we
code and be
definitely
like,
used
whoa, what are
we
you?
definitely used a lean approach.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like
we're
get it
just
done, make
trying
it
to,
work.
iterate as quickly as possible, just trying to get stuff
Hmm.
done and we do optimize and refactor as we go, but definitely we haven't really done like a good, like solid
Hmm.
week of refactor or anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, so anyway, this guy, we have this really kind of complex animator that's controlling the animations. Um, this guy, we have the settings, right? So basically, this bird, let's see, bird settings. So bird settings has all these, settings for the bird, and somewhere I initialize all these bird settings. Let's see. Grab these, something like that. Oh, yeah. Okay. So set bird settings happens at the beginning, and we just kind of give it all the
Hmm.
settings. So,
Yeah.
sometimes it goes faster, sometimes it could turn faster, sometimes, it gets to the waypoint and doesn't have to be as close to the waypoint, all those little tuning things. But okay, so let's talk about hunting. So the other part about switching states is you switch state and then in update inside this bird movement, we have, whatever it's going to be doing each frame. So in this case, if it's hunting, it's going to do this basic flying. So what basic flying does is there's this forward movement. Let's see. So we sort of blend, right, which way it's going with a new direction and sort of average into it. So we get that sort of soft
Hmm.
turning. So that's what's happening here. First, we're translating it forward. We're not using physics or anything for the bird. We're just pushing it forward, and then we're just rotating it based on where a waypoint is. So direction, right? So we have a waypoint, which basically at some point it'll show up. We put a random point on a map, and the bird wants to go there. When it gets close enough, it puts a new waypoint. So we get the direction, right? So that's a little arrow. Um, we turn it into Euler. Let's see. So we flatten it. Angular angle. Yeah, okay, so this guy's it's a flat version because we don't want him to blend the Z, right? Like this movement, we don't want to blend that.
Mm.
We're right here, we're just focusing on this kind of, right? And this movement. The yeah, I don't know what is this, yaw? And this I don't know, pitch. I don't know. So we lerp it, right? We like I was saying, we blend it. Let's see. Oh, then we do this tilt. So what I do with tilt is I calculate, let's see, I calculate the direction it wants to go versus where it's forward, right? And that little angle, I use it to define how much it turns this way. Let's see. So where was this? Tilt with return, right? So yeah, so that's where we do the rotation. I just tilt it. And in this little thing we have is because we don't want the eagle to go underground. So if
Hmm.
the
Yeah.
position of the eagle is less than 4, then we sort of tilt it up a little bit. We start to tilt it up a little bit. So ideally, if it enters, since it ideally enters in not a strong angle, it'll sort of start to tilt until it's like barely moving up and then just kind of which has given us a bit of issues because, as any programmer will see, these are like what they call magic numbers. We had to adjust the floor, and suddenly, like, there's a few places where I have these little magic numbers based on height.
Mm.
Um, so that kind of messed things up a little bit, but it's fine. I mean, we just tuned it a little since, I mean, there's not a lot of movement happening. Like the ground isn't changing and stuff. We just kind of hard coded. Just tried it a few times, found the sweet number. Let's see what flap wing check does. Oh, okay. So this is cool. So basically, if so we get the forward vector. Let's see. We can draw a little eagle. And if the eagle is facing a little bit down, right, we get the y of that vector.
Mm.
So this guy, or well, whichever way it's going, right? We get this vector. If it's less than 0.5, then we change the gliding rate and the flapping rate. So what the gliding rate and the flapping rate are there's this coroutine that's going on all the time that is deciding if the bird, like, it's just like, sometimes it's flapping and sometimes it's just gliding. And
Hmm.
so in summary, what this does is if it's pointing down, it's more likely to just glide. And if it's pointing up, it starts to climb a little bit. So give it a little bit of randomness. We have a bit of randomness in a few places. But it's like a little coroutine. Here we go. So it waits for a random range between the gliding rate and more than the gliding rate. And then it does glide. It flap. Sorry. Flap. Yeah. Right. It's kind of like backwards. It's like it glides, then it waits for this a few seconds, then it flaps. It waits the gliding rate. And then it waits the flapping rate, and then it goes to glide again. And you'll see these little exceptions everywhere. And I don't know if there's a better way of doing this kind of stuff because, hey, for example, if the bird is going to the landing, which means it's like either landing on your nest or on your hand,
Hmm.
we don't want it to switch to flapping or gliding because then we had all these issues where it was like just, it was doing the wrong animations. We've had a lot of those little issues
Hmm. Yeah.
where these, it just starts to. The funny one is when it's like just standing still, but it's like flying. So it's like this like
Mm.
Darth Vader stiff eagle, and it's just like going around the map. So that's always cracks us up. So that is
Well,
basic.
it certainly looks great now, though. It looks, I
Yeah.
mean, to me, it looks totally natural when you watch the bird fly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's been nice. Um, so that's the forward movement I was saying, it has all this sort of little details of flapping, of tilting, and finding, going to the waypoint and all that stuff. And then there's distance check. So distance check is if so yeah, so there's a current waypoint, right? There's a point on the map. We're comparing the distance between those two. If it's less than the waypoint proximity, oh, this is interesting. This can be backwards. I'm not going to change it, but we can say this is saying if it's not less, but we could say if it's more. But anyway, it's good enough for now. If it's not less than waypoint proximity, if it's not close enough to the waypoint proximity, then this just returns, right? So that just means all this doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But if it does get close enough to the waypoint proximity, then depending on what it's doing, it's going to do something different. So that's the basic hunting fly. Right? That all makes sense from your perspective. Cool.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Cool,
That's
cool.
fantastic. Now, what was the next change of state after that? Was it the landing on the hand? I was just trying to think back because this was last spring.
Yeah, oh cool, I put it in a story. Forgot. So I don't
And
know
then there was
exactly which one we did, but
there was the feeding. It might have been the feeding first, actually.
mhm. Yeah, I don't remember.
When
I
we would throw the fish, and then it would. We had lots of conversations about, can it catch it in the air?
mhm.
Uh, does it have to catch it on the ground? Can it catch it out of the hand? I think it can
Yeah.
do all three now, but at the time it was trying to determine what's the best way of doing that.
Mhm. Um, yeah, let's see. Let's look at that. Let's look at so that's diving. Let's see, I'm trying to remember the code. When you grab the fish, we know that you grab it. So there's something called, let's see if we got something called something grab. Let's see if we can find it. It's like this guy. Is it in prey behavior? It's grabbed, it's grabbed. Cool. Okay. So prey behavior is on some fish, right? So maybe we can look at these little fish. Little bucket.
So for those who haven't played, we put fish in a bucket, and then you could grab the fish and you could throw them. Um, we later used the bucket for seeds with flowers, but there we go.
Yeah, so there's both. There's like seeds
Yeah.
from the fish. So these fish have a prey behavior and also this OVR grabbable extended, which might be a cool thing to do a video of sometime because it's kind of this weird thing. Like, how do I know? It's like always on forums and stuff like, how do I know when I grab something? Like with the
Mhm.
Oculus, you know? And the other thing is that there's like this is probably good for like another video at some point, but there's like OpenXR and then there's the OVR platforms that which are both like ways that interactions happen with headset and controllers. And I've always used OpenXR, and in this one we had to use OVR because it's the one that does the pass-through and stuff.
Yeah.
So there's kind of not as much info because I think OpenXR is super nice and easy, and people have been using it. But in this case, what I do is I extend OVR grabbable. And basically what I do is there's a little listener somewhere. Yeah. So this grab info, right, which is this OVR grabbable extended, I add a listener for is grabbed. So is grabbed is this function right here,
Hmm.
right? So anytime basically the OVR platform, says, hey, we grab something, boom, it sort of, extends to this prey behavior. So when you grab it, basically what the eagle does is it kind of welcoming makes the eagle like come to you, like fly, basically do a flyover.
Yeah.
So the eagle just, sees that you grab a fish and then it's just kind of like, coming to you. And at that point you could hold your hand up and it would just grab it, or you could throw it, or you could just throw it on the ground. So let's say you do throw it, right? So that's is released. And this is like these little edge cases that I'm going to be talking about. So if you already grabbed the fish, then don't worry about it, because then I don't know, when we grab two fish and all these weird stuff would happen. Let's see, if birds stay grabbed fish. Yeah, I wonder. This might be a good thing to test. What happens if you throw? Have you tried it? What happens if you grab one fish, throw it, grab another fish, throw it like that?
It actually goes, so the way we wanted to design it was that the eagle wouldn't get confused and it would just grab one fish at a time. So what happens now when you grab this, if it's caught the first fish and it's flying back to the nest, then it continues to fly back to the nest until it lands on the nest. And there must be something to do with the nest where it's probably then looking for a fish, but it doesn't look for a second fish until it's landed on the nest.
Yeah, and I think actually when an eagle has a fish grabbed, I don't know where that would be in this code. Um, if another fish touches the ground, it's just gonna respawn back in the bucket.
I think you're right. Yeah.
So yeah. I think that's what's
Sometimes I think
happening.
it might just sit there, but I think you might be right. I think it might respawn because remember there were some issues of fish falling out of the bucket, and we didn't want the fish to be
Wisconsin.
just all over the ground.
Yeah.
So I think that was part of it too.
Yep. Cool. So yeah, so let's say the eagle hasn't grabbed a fish. You throw a fish. Um, this is an interesting one. Trying to do the throwing. If anybody has tried coding in VR, just if you just throw it with the basic code, it doesn't feel like you're throwing something. Like it's not. It's like because when you release it, you might like slow down or something, and it's not calculating the velocity. So what I do is I calculate the velocity every frame, and this might be able to be a fixed update, and that's probably a little better. Um, but I get the average of the last 3 frames, or not the average of the last 3 frames. I grab like, let's say like frame number 3, every third frame,
Mhm.
and I call that last position, and I compare it to the current position, which would give you a direction basically. Which well, a velocity because it has a magnitude, right? It's not always the same, so it's not a direction, but it's like how fast it's going in what direction. And then when we release, right when we release, I get that velocity, and then we have a little throw multiplier, and that makes it so you can, now in the game, you can like it seems pretty fun. When you throw a
It's super
fish.
fun. I used to just sort of throw it on the ground. Now I throw it far, and
Yeah.
you can throw it pretty far now. It's kind of fun.
Nice. Yeah. Cool. So yeah, so you throw the fish, and the eagle notices this fish and starts to dive. And so you can see that the prey is the current fish. We give it we give the eagle that transform. And then we switch states to diving, right? And there's something interesting in diving. So diving, part the straightforward part. So diving, uh, let's see. Well, this is pretty similar to the other one. But I will show y'all what happens in the bird movement when you dive. So this is interesting. What I'm doing when it dives, the current waypoint is the prey's position, which by the way is an update. That way, if the fish is moving, it's always
Mhm.
sort of like going toward the fish.
Mhm.
Um, so we give it the prey position. It does the basic flying, right? Since this is the current waypoint, it's just going toward the flying. But what I do is that every frame, I'm speeding up the turn speed, right? The turn speed is how fast it can turn. So it's slowly going faster and faster. And also I'm adding the distance between the position and the prey, the eagle and the prey,
Mhm.
right? So the closer, let's see, the further it is, so the closer this is to 1, then this is going to be 0. So we're adding 0 to the turn speed. But if it gets closer and closer, which means that this lerp is going closer to 0, we're adding 0.1. So this is this cool thing that basically what happens is like if the eagle is like kind of close to it, the closer it gets, the more it's like a gravity or something, right? And it does this
Mhm.
cool thing that submit just like boom snaps it, just like switches to next. Interesting. And I also speed the eagle up a little bit, right? Um, that way it's just, yeah, it has this like diving feel. It's just going faster, turning faster, turning faster. And since this is, when it's super close, this number is just this turn speed is going to go up like really fast. So it's,
Yeah.
we don't want the eagle to miss the fish. And then, sometimes some of these things starts to do this and starts to like infinitely, go like really close. So this makes it so like, when it's really close to the eagle, the turn speed is going to be really high. So it's kind of hard for it to not grab the fish.
And it looks real. Like it looks wild. There's a wild element of the eagle diving quickly and and
Yeah.
and just snapping and just ah.
Hmm. Yeah, these are cool. Would you put, I think, like, I don't know if you put this, but like put a little video of that, like of the eagle
Yeah,
being
I
grabbed and
definitely
stuff,
will.
right?
Yeah, for
Nice, nice,
sure.
nice.
Let's do that.
Okay, so eagle dives to the fish. When the eagle gets close enough to the fish, fish is a collider to trigger. If the thing we bumped into, right, which is other, we grab this component. So there's like a little pattern that you use in Unity a lot, that you grab the component of the other thing. And if that component doesn't exist, it's basically not the thing we were trying to hit, right? So, for example, the fish lands on a brick, right? The brick doesn't have the bird movement component. So if this is not null, if this is null, then it's going to skip all this. But so let's say it does, the eagle does bump into the fish, then all this fun stuff happens. If you already have a fish grabbed, that's kind of what we were saying. Return. This one is pretty important because I remember like what happens sometimes is the eagle's just flying for some reason or another, gets close to the bucket, and then it like
Mhm.
forgets the other fish, right? It just grabs a new fish. So it's
Yeah,
okay. Eagles.
steals it.
If you have if you have a fish, don't. You'll see all these things randomly. Those are the uh the controllers have little UI that explains what to do. So you'll see that changing here and there.
Yeah, grab fish, throw fish.
Yeah, and then this is another cool thing. We have this everywhere too, where we did a little Google Sheets system, and it's sort of our like very basic analytics. So instead of setting up like Unity analytics, which is again like we're being really lean, um, we just send, we have this giant Excel sheet and we can sort of see what people are up to. So right, so fish grabbed, all that fun stuff, right? We count how many fish are caught. And then we make this landing spot the branch, right? The nest. So we have, you see here, landing spot, branch landing spot is this guy, little nest. Got a little nest here. It even has eggs. Nobody can see them. It's a little
I
Easter
was
egg,
just
I
thinking
guess.
that the other day, if we do get people to climb up the tree, that's the moment they'll see the eggs for the first time.
Ah, maybe have a little birdie there. You can feed it.
Yeah, that's fun
Little
too.
worm. Hmm. Cool,
Although
cool.
Mama Eagle might not be happy about that, but we'll see.
Oh, that's a whole thing. Maybe you can try to feed it and eagle's like pecking at you or something. So yeah, so the eagle goes to the nest when it grabs a prey, a fish. Go to landing. We take gravity off from the fish. We don't want the fish falling. We parent the fish to the bird hand, and we lerp it to the point where the bird hands are. So basically, just the eagle overall just bumps into it. While the collider is close to the hand, um, as soon as that happens, the fish is gonna just very quickly, like sort of like snap to the
Hmm.
little hands. Oh, that's what lerp to hand is. Um, I'm sure Unity developers have done this kind of thing, little coroutine. Since it's parented to this is kind of an interesting. Since it's parented to the hand,
Hmm.
then I just set the position to 0. I just multiply it times 0.1. So after like 1 second or something, it's going to be a very small number. If it's less than 0.01, then we're done with this snapping. But
Yeah.
this is a good, easy way to just make something basically move to 0. which is the eagle's like talon or something like that at this point. It's like one of the joints like in the hand. And then the eagle lands on the yeah, yeah,
Do you want
lands
to
on
talk
there.
about that? I remember, we were having the Eagle try and land on cylinders back in the day, and then we played with the animation and stuff. Was there any tricks, or was it fairly straightforward for you to figure out how to get it to land on the hand?
Yeah, the landing definitely there's some weird stuff that can happen. Trying to remember exactly. Let's see. So if bird is go to landing, right? So that's the states, right? This is animations and the flap. Here's the update. Oh, interesting. I'm sure we did this for a reason, but if your fish is grabbed, the eagle turns faster. Uh, and if you
Oh,
don't, the eagle doesn't.
is that snapping back to the nest, maybe?
Yeah, this one, I mean, it's pretty similar. Oh no, wait, oh, if it goes to the hand, it goes faster. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, we just, increase the turn speed. It's kind of the same thing. We don't want the eagle to like just like go around because it can't turn fast enough. So as time
Hmm.
goes by, it's turning faster and faster. So that way, like, there's just this moment where it's going to land on the nest, like something. And it creates some interesting behaviors because sometimes the eagle's like behind the nest, and then it just like kind of does this like the nest is here. It does this like go around, and then since it's so
Hmm.
close, it like snaps. So it kind of like looks like it just like it's kind of nice movement.
Hmm.
But the magic here happens in distance check. So we check current state. If it's go to landing, we switch to landing. And let's see what happens in land. This is a little, if there's any Unity developers out there, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of ways of solving this, but I have this giant switch case. And then, for example, I look at this and I don't know, like just when I look at this like this, I don't know what function I'm in. I mean, I guess I could just close it like that. That's probably useful. But I don't know what function I'm in, so I have to kind of go up and I'm like, wait, am I in switch state? And it's like,
Mm.
cool, I am in switch state because it could be a switch animation. But I can't close turn this off. It's probably useful. So when you're landing, and there's this bird wind that is happening. This is like a little side note. It's just playing like this whooshing sound, and it's spatial. So basically, if the bird gets close to you, it's going to make this like
Hmm.
wind sound. And we obviously turn that off when the bird lands because we don't want it to just it
Yeah.
doesn't make sense. Um, so if you land and you have a fish, you grab the fish, it means you're landing on the uh on the branch on the nest.
Hmm.
We switch to eating, right? So it's just that kind of basically makes an animation of eating. And we also we make the bird face the player. So this one, let's see, can I? Oh, wait. Let's see, where is it? Temp rotation, transform rotation goal. Right, right. So it's we calculate the rotation of where the bird would be facing the player, and then we slowly lerp to that. Right. So you'll probably see a lot of these little lerps inside coroutines. And this one's another interesting one that not a lot of people know, where I'm making an IEnumerator. I'm calling an IEnumerator from another script. And so you can sort of grab the IEnumerator and then call it start coroutine. So that's kind of an interesting little Unity thing. So if if you caught one fish at least, or if you caught one fish, we have this ghost hand that shows up. And basically this ghost hand is you get this like cool little gauntlet, right? You just like fed the fish, you unlocked it, you are a fish, you're a eagle whisper pro.
Like a falconer.
Yeah, 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 exactly. So that's a really cool little model. Let's see. Oh, change something. No. Yeah, something like this. Tutorial hand. So this guy is invisible, and wherever you move, let's see if I move this. The bucket, the stump, it also because it also appears at some point,
Hmm.
uh, is moving according to where you are,
Yeah.
and that's pretty
So
useful,
the
because
stump is just for people. So the stump is where the fish are put in the
Mhm.
bucket, right beside the player.
Yep. And so what this allows me to do is, as soon as we show the glove, right? Oh, and here's the glove. So let's see, that's pretty cool. As soon as we show the glove gets unparented from the camera, right? So this glove basically would go here. And let's see, does anything else happen with the glove? Oh, well, we just turn it on, right? We set active to false. Or we set active to true. We set the parent to null. So then it's an empty space and it appears and it's not going to be floating in front of you all. And it's just going to, it's literally just pops up like right in front of your face. That way we make sure you see it. There's a lot of stuff like that uh, in VR that we always talk about where if you have to be careful because people might be looking somewhere else and something really important
Hmm.
happens and you're just like, I don't get this game. Yeah, you're supposed to grab the glove. So we try to make it show up in front of your face. So yeah, that's what happens if if you grab the fish and you're gonna go eat it. The eagle's gonna go eat it. Now if your go-to landing spot is the hand, then again we get some data and we just turned on some controls. Right. So then at that point the eagle's on your hand and we at that point in the game, now you can have some controls where you can control the eagle and like make it fly and come back and all that fun stuff.
That's right. Which is my favorite part of the game was the eagle on the hand.
Hmm.
Definitely. It's a rather
Yeah.
spiritual moment.
I gotcha. So yeah, so Control UI Management Manager has a bunch of turning off and on UI controls. But what happens here actually, let's see. And again, please, if there's Unity developers and you see better ways of organizing this code, let me know. Uh, so when we toggle controls on, we allow custom controls. Custom controls unlocked. Custom controls are unlocked. Then we get all these cool controls. This was another weird one, trying to figure out again, like the OVR platform instead of the OpenXR. How do we get that done? Pretty weird setup here. Took a bit to figure this one out. How to track controls. And so there's a whole rabbit hole, but we're using the new Unity input system, which is really weird and complicated. I still don't exactly get it, what the proper way of using it is. So ideally you could also do that. You like map the OVR inputs to different controls and then you can just use the input system. But anyway, this works and I think it's easier to understand.
So the types of things we wanted the player to do is to add more fish to the bucket, flyby where the eagle flies over you. My
Mhm.
personal favorite slow-mo, like when you click the slow motion button when the eagle is taking off from your hand, it's super cool in a sort of 8-year-old kind of way. What else? Explore one I can't remember. That was just where it flies around.
Uh-huh.
Is there anything else? I'm trying to think in that list.
Explore land. I think yeah, it takes off.
Wait a minute.
Basically takes off and lands, right? And then you can still mow. And then there's
So
like
this
the
is the
throwing the fishes. Oh, and
Yeah, so
you yeah.
this is the part of the app where we want people to play with the eagle, to get to know the eagle. The eagle gets to know you. You hang out with the eagle. You do stuff.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. Um, and so here's the slow-mo. Slow-mo is kind of cool. So on get down, right? When you press it, it does this toggle slow-mo to true, and when you move it up, you turn to false, right? So it's like one of these hold interactions. If it's on, then we just change this time scale of the physics in the whole game
Hmm.
to zero point 0.1. Which an interesting thing that I discovered, little tidbit, is that we do this in the intro. It does the slow-mo by itself at some point. Slow-mo
Yes.
for seconds.
Second pass when the eagle passes the player for the second time.
So this one's an automatic one, slow-mo for seconds. And what I realized is, for example, I forgot what the number was, but Paul was saying, hey, it should like be slow-mo for 3 seconds or something. So I put
Right.
3 seconds here, and it was slow-mo forever. And it's because I changed the time scale. So it's 3 seconds times 0.1, which I guess it would be 30 seconds. So the time scale makes sense. Like the wait for seconds, like you're literally changing how long a second is. So we just do 0.7 seconds, but that's actually like 7 seconds, I guess. And then, oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, this is just a special thing for this one. This is where the fish bucket gets activated because basically the eagle flies over you. It does a slow motion in this intro, flies away, and then a few seconds later, 8 seconds later, the fish bucket shows up.
Yep.
So slow-mo controls. Oh, controls over here. Toggle slow-mo. Awesome. No. So that gets us to the gauntlet. The eagle lands on your hand. When it takes off, right? So the first time that you press the button for it to take off, a little secret timer starts happening. And it's called wait and clear fog. And look at this stuff. So this is like this really weird thing where I didn't want you like every time you press the button for this to be turned on. But then like I don't know, like all these this is kind of a weird one. This took us a while, I think, little edge cases where like you can control the eagle, or sometimes basically what would happen is a little spoiler alert of what happens after 60 seconds is that the eagle is going to come to you and flap and like make this sort of tornado out of the mist. And basically what has to happen is, like what we do is like 10 seconds before the eagle flaps, right, which is called facing player because it comes to you. We deactivate all the controls. That way we're just sort of making a state that's very like standard, and the eagle, so you can't control basically the eagle for 10 seconds. The eagle's flying around. And then it comes to you. So waits for 60 seconds. At that point, I say custom controls are not locked anymore. Which I think this is in here anyway, toggle control. Custom control unlocked. So we actually don't need this. Because this is false, yeah.
I'm
Uh-huh.
I'm cringing every time you touch code because I remember how difficult it was to finish off level 1.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. No, I definitely, yeah. I'm mostly deleting like print statements, and then that one's just super obvious.
Oh, I know. It's just each time I'm like,
No, and it's true. And I mean, that's, I make a ton of assumptions. Oh, it should be good. And you have to be super careful because who knows, like maybe
we'll find out.
Yeah, exactly.
The players
we'll see what happens with all this. Yeah, but it's a good point. I should probably not, since we're not testing it, we're just talking about the crash, probably not change. It's like a habit too. I'm like, just cleaning things up. Like,
you can decide if you want to push it to me or not.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have some bugs. Nah, probably not. But anyway, so the eagle, we turn off the controls. Depending on what it's currently doing, it's going to either go hunting or take off, right? So if it's in your hand, we're going to make it take off. If it's hunting, or if it's, orbiting or doing diving for a fish. So for example, in this case, if it's diving for a fish, it's going to just 10 seconds before it's going to ignore the fish. So, it's kind of like, hey, eagle, like what happened? Eagle's like, it's getting, I don't know, like stressed, like thinking about something, and then it, comes at you. Yeah. Then it faces player. Yeah, those are all good steps. Facing player just basically makes a waypoint in front of your face, like higher up. goes to that point, and then it does this flapping one. I think it's called flapping. Flapping. So we don't want it to glide, we don't want it to fly. We play this really strong wind, right? It's like right in front of your face. It's like doing this flapping animation. Strong wind. And does a little sound after 2 seconds. It just goes like ah. And then after 12 seconds it flies away. Right. So for basically for 12 seconds, it's just doing this thing. This beautiful music starts, this like piano, like chaotic, dissonant piano
It's a
music
storm.
comes up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a storm, right? Like this guy, this eagle starts a storm.
Or as good as a storm can be in pass through, right? I
Yeah,
think
and
you did.
actually,
I think you did darken it a bit. Did you not?
yeah. I think it turned out good. Yeah, it does get a little dark. Um, yeah.
Awesome.
So I think, yeah, this tornado, this might be a whole like separate video, I think. This tornado thing.
Yeah,
You
probably.
can like you can like should I just put it here? Should I just start talking about tornado? You're gonna be like, scene two.
Oh, I think we can. I think we can pause there.
Yeah,
Just let people know that this was the sort of the dividing line between level 1 and 2. There was a tornado, and we're trying to move on to a different vibe.
cool.
And so you inserted the tornado there, which is
Cool.
pretty cool. Yeah.
So so the tornado happens, right? This mist is going on, and we'll talk about it in another video because there's some really interesting things happening with physics and force fields and these particles, um, which you might show them, but I'm gonna just click on these on this mist so people can see it. So this is what I'm talking about. This mist, it goes into the sky and it turns into a cloud. But that's a whole. There's a really lot of cool, interesting stuff over there. So I'm excited to show people that. And here's the tornado sound.
Amazing. Thanks, Gabriel. I think that's great.
Yeah. Do y'all have any questions? Like I said, any comments? Hopefully you get to try the app. It's free right now, and it's cool to hear everybody's feedback. And yeah, I hope it's an enjoyable experience. It's very different from a lot of VR stuff. It's not shoot 'em
Mhm.
up. You're not being chased by zombies. You're more just like hanging out with nature and being peaceful for a bit in this crazy world.
It's definitely peaceful and wondrous, but it pushes the envelope of pass through and mixed
Mhm.
reality a little bit.
Yeah, yeah,
And
definitely.
yeah, so definitely leave some comments below on YouTube or in Reddit, and we'd love to hear from you. Awesome.
Mhm.
That's great, Gabriel.